Welcome to MLB Live Before Lock. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm joined once again by DFS legend Terry McBride. You can find him on Twitter at DigitalB21. And this show is sponsored by OddsShopper, which gives you the edge you need betting player props and game lines across all sports. While you're coming in, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe so you can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. Once you subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. Be sure to also check out today's free premium tools and data, which are the MLB Top Stacks tool, NBA Finals Game 4 ownership projections, and MMA fighter rankings. Terry, I missed the main DK contest yesterday, but I played on FanDuel and I noticed that it was a great day for sharps on FanDuel, with the top five being OCD OBV, a great 150 maxer. Yep. FanDuel Brainlet 69, a guy with an Awesomeo avatar who's also a very successful player. Giant Squid at number 3. Yourself at number 4, and Bro to round it out at number 5. Great top 5 there. Seems like your MLB success has been pretty consistent this year. What's your secret?
Good sorting. Definitely, it's all about the sorting process. It's really, I think the conversation about optimizers gets really overblown. I don't really care which one you're using, as long as you have the capability to create a large pool of well-built lineups. And that's just a matter of just mashing hitters together in the right combinations. Get into the sorting process. That's really the key that I would advise everybody to pay more attention to. And it's something we don't probably talk about enough, but it's just where I weight my lineups for, projection, upside, and how they rate out versus the field. And I've, through pure dumb luck, whatever you want to call it, I happen to have, stumbled on a pretty good formula for sorting that out, and it's working fairly well so far. But yeah, congrats to Brainlet. Squeaked past me. I was sweating when Ohtani came back out for the 7th. I knew I was cooked. He picked up 2 more strikeouts. He had the win. The win would have put Brainlet within a point of me for second place, and got knocked out by that, but glad to see one of our people do it. And then, I got passed for first earlier than that, by all things, by a Gleyber Torres walk. So that was a little frustrating because I was watching my Yankees.
That's rough.
And I can't root against the walk. I wanted Gleyber to get on, but it's like, knew it was going to kill him. It's all right.
Yeah, that's all right. Still a decent day, and you've had enough success this year. You've had plenty of top fives, and you've won at least 1 or 2. So, pretty solid year for you so far. I'm not seeing anything that looks too concerning in the weather department. Do you see it any different?
No, I was shocked the way I have a little weather section in my article, and I basically wrote it up saying, like, there's no way the universe allows us to have a 15-game slate with nothing like that. Right? So keep your eye on the skies for falling meteors or something like that, because something's coming. A blackout, I don't know what, something's coming, but there's no bad weather in the forecast, at least not anywhere without a roof.
Yep, that's what I have seen as well. Anything else you want to say about an overview of the slate before we jump into it game by game? We've got 15 to do.
Just leaving anything you want to say on the table for me is a big tee up, but
slate
was a good.
We don't have time, Terry.
Good pitching slate. I'm into the pitching slate. A lot of good options. I think there's everything from struggling ace caliber pitchers that I still believe in to proven veterans from the mid range to upstart young kids with great upside but a lot of ownership. So we'll talk through it all. But I think it's a really interesting pitching slate. And then the bottom end, there's a couple pure gas cans on this one that are going to get absolutely tattooed for offense tonight. So we'll get to those too.
All right, right on. All right, well, then let's jump into it. We got 15 games, like I said. Let's start off with the Milwaukee Brewers at the Washington Nationals. The Brewers have a 4.9 run implied total. Nationals at 3.6. Aaron Ashby on the mound for the Brewers. Eric Fedde on the mound for the Nationals. Let's start with Ashby. How much interest do you have in Ashby against this Nationals lineup?
A pretty good amount. The Nats are decent at not striking out, but they're not great at anything else. I thought I dropped the confirmed lineup in here just before the show. Maybe I put it in the wrong spot, but I believe too. Nelson's back. Yeah, Nelson's back in the lineup here. Let me just drop that back in there. But Juan Soto, Nelson Cruz, really the only 2 hitters that I am concerned about at all at any time in this lineup from the Nationals. Like I was saying, all they do well is avoid strikeouts. It might cut in minorly to the upside of an Ashby, but he's striking out hitters at a 30.5% rate so far this season, inducing a 13.4% swinging strike, 2.78 xFIP. There's a lot to like in this pitcher. He does walk a few too many, so a patient guy like Soto might get on a few times here, might get on in front of Nelson, could cause a little bit of a bump in the middle of the lineup, but a lot of the pitchers in this price range kind of have that, and if we're going to this price range, why not take one of the guys with the massive strikeout upside in his talent, in his arm, regardless of matchup? So I'll definitely be interested in Ashby here. 11% on FanDuel. That's probably around where I'll end up. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less just through happenstance, but that's a good price, 8,600 on both sites. I think 15% might actually be a little bit low on the DK slate.
even on a 15-game slate? I mean, I guess it is two
I
pitchers.
think so. On a 2-pitcher site, I think at 15%, just given the strikeout upside, one of the better strikeout pitchers so far on the slate, and it's pretty real. It's extended out over 70 plus innings going back to last year, 29.3% last year, 30.5% this year. So I worry about the walks, but he hasn't gotten damaged by hard hit. Only a 29.8% hard hit and a 3.5% barrel, 2% home run rate. So I really like the upside for Ashby here.
All right, well, let's keep moving it along. How about the other side of it? Any interest in the Nationals up against Ashby?
Not really. It's not a team I stack all that much, just kind of exclusively because I do believe it's basically a 2-hitter offense. This version doesn't look like it's got Yadiel Hernandez in there, which takes a bat that I do like out of the lineup. Just not a team for me. If you want to go there, it's Soto, Cruz, and Josh Bell in the middle. Maybe you grab Leighton Thomas as a leadoff hitter. Cesar Hernandez, as bad as he was as the leadoff hitter, is more miscast as a 2-hitter in this lineup. I do not know what the hell they're doing with him. Victor Robles could be interesting as a wraparound from the bottom, but very tepid interest in the Nationals.
Okay, right on. Well, then let's keep moving it along. How about Eric Fedde? Any interest in Eric Fedde going up against the Brewers?
No. If I needed somebody to fetch me a drink or something, I think I might call Eric Fedde, but I'm not going to be putting him in any lineups on this slate. 6,100 on DK, 7,000 on FanDuel. You just don't need him. 18% strikeout rate, 10.8% walks going up against a pretty capable Brewers lineup. I'd rather take the Brewers side of this one, but they're kind of drawing a little bit more ownership than I'm comfy with.
All right, so you will trust him with your drink, so at least you endorse him in that sense, but not as pitcher on the slate. All right, but tell me about your Brewers interest. You say they're coming in a little bit over-owned. Are you going to be stacking up the Brewers at all, or are you going to be just playing them as one-offs?
Let's see where they land on the top stacks tool, because the highly owned was just on the eyeball test as I was looking at it there. Okay. But coming in negative 4.8 leverage, but the second ranked team by probability of being the top stack on DK. So using that as an example, 6.7 stack score, that is our top stack score on the site. Tampa Bay coming in second with a 6.5. Tampa's a lot closer to efficient ownership. Milwaukee's pulling a lot of popularity, but you can definitely go to this lineup. It's a big slate, like you were just suggesting. So there are plenty of secondary stacks that you can get to at, a lot of hitters at 1 and 0.5% ownership to combine these guys with. And you don't even need to go to that depth. As long as you're getting a couple guys at low ownership into a lineup combination, you're pretty fine. You can do that with pitching. You can do that with hitting. There are hitters within the Milwaukee lineup itself, like Andrew McCutchen at 6.4% for 3,100 on DK. Don't really understand that. Hunter Renfroe, 5.1% at 3,800 on DK. Don't really understand that ownership spot either. So get to those guys and then just combine them with the Yelich's, Adames, Tellez, and Urias's of the world up top.
All right, right on. Anything else you want to say about this game before we move on?
No, pretty much on the Brewers side of this one, if anything, and not really interested in anything from the Nats.
All right, I'm going to learn my lesson and stop asking you those open-ended questions just for this 15-game slate, because probably not going to get through it if I keep asking them. All right, we'll move on. We've got the Arizona Diamondbacks at the Philadelphia Phillies. The Diamondbacks with a 3.9 run implied total. Phillies with 4.6. Zach Gallen on the mound for the D-backs. Kyle Gibson on the mound for the Phillies. Let's start with Zach Gallen. How much interest do you have in Zach Gallen against the Phillies today?
Gallen was kind of falling off the bottom of the board for me. It looks like the same's happening for the field. I just think he's a little high priced. He's not projecting out great. I do like the Phillies offense. I just think I'd rather be on the Phillies side of this one. It's not like Gallen's a targetable pitcher, really. 23.6% strikeout rate is pretty good. A 1.78% home run rate, only a 0.96 whip for the season. All very good numbers. He's just priced in that 9,000 range with a lot of other more talented pitchers, guys with higher strikeout rates, guys in better matchups, where it wouldn't totally shock me if Zach Gallen put up a slate leading or at least slate relevant score tonight. I just don't see it. I just don't get there that much. I wouldn't tell anybody they were necessarily making a mistake putting him in the lineup. He's definitely at very low ownership, so there's probably a little bit of leverage to be squeezed out of the juice there. Squeezed out of the juice. That doesn't work. Whatever. There's a little juice to be squeezed out of the leverage fruit there.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, nice save. So maybe you can go to him for that aspect of it, but 9,900 on DK, you're kind of paying a pretty hefty price tag to do it there, where there's just other options that I like better. So minor interest for me.
Okay, yeah, he looks pretty good in the top pitchers tool, but maybe there's enough pitchers on here that you don't necessarily need to go there. He's coming in at 1.7% ownership, 9% chance of being a top 2 pitcher on the board. That's pretty decent odds, but
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's not too bad. He's a guy that I would definitely consider, but there are a lot of good options to consider here. So maybe not your number one option. But you said he's not very targetable. Are you going to be playing any Phillies stacks or going to any one-offs with any kind of volume?
I'll have some just because of how I do things. So in the lineup creation process, it's going to be everybody very thin slice, trying to get to a lot of even shares and different, just differentiated combinations of these top stacks. I do consider Philly a good lineup. But like I said, Gallen, the 1.78% home run rate this year, he's allowing 32.9% hard hits this year. So he's been good for premium contact, not really putting too many guys on base. He's not striking out a whopping amount of hitters, but 23.6% is fine. And Philly strikes out at a fairly aggressive rate. So it's just kind of a middle play where I'll have some. It'll probably be over the field just by happenstance because the field's in the 4 and 5% range. And some of the hitters that I do get to toward the back end of the lineup are almost not at all owned. So I'll probably be ahead of the field, but it's not like it's a major target for me. I'm not going out of my way for Philly stacks, but I also wouldn't go out of my way to delete them.
Okay. On the other side of the game, we've got Kyle Gibson on the mound against the D-backs. How much interest do you have, if any, in Kyle Gibson?
He was another guy who's just kind of borderline for the player pool. He projects out somewhat well for me, but I don't totally buy it because of how frisky the D-backs have been this year. It was a discussion point during the strategy show this morning, and it's worth looping back to. The Diamondbacks active roster has a 196 ISO and a 3.81% home run rate against right-handed pitching this year. That ranks first in baseball and third in baseball. They've created runs 4% better than average against righties. They strike out at a 24.8% rate, which is 27th out of 30 teams. So there's definitely some strikeout upside there, but Gibson's not safe. He's got that negative home run upside that if he makes a mistake against this team, there's power enough to take him deep. They have Christian Walker back in the lineup today, or he's not missing a game. I don't know. The injury report said face. I'm not sure what exactly was wrong with him. But a 37.6% hard hit rate for Gibson today, this year, a 5.3% barrel rate. I just think there's enough of a threat that I'm not really going out of my way for him. But if I ended up around the fields 5% on FanDuel, I would probably be all right with that. I would probably want to be a little bit below the 16.5%, even for that discount at 7,100 on the DK slate. But I do think he is one of the better mid-level discount options, like those high sixes, low sevens guys.
Okay. How about the Diamondbacks before we move on to the next game? How much interest do you have in Diamondbacks stacks or one-offs today?
Based on what I was just saying about them being somewhat dangerous against right-handed pitching, you'd think I'd have a little bit, but it's really a team I don't get to that much. I don't really believe in those numbers in the long term. I think they have been frisky. I think if you want to go to the Varshos, Ketel Martes, Christian Walker, David Peralta combinations of the world, that's fine. But beyond those guys, there's not a ton that I love in this lineup. So I'll leave them for other people. If they burn me, so be it. It's happened once or twice this season, but I feel like I haven't really lost despite them being fairly frisky in avoiding them. So I'm not getting there all that much.
All right. Love it. Well, let's just move right on to the next game, make some good time early, and then we can slow down later. We got the Cubs at the Yankees. You're probably going to want to talk about this one, I'm guessing. We got the Cubs with a 3.2 run implied total, your Yankees with a 5.3 run implied total. Wade Miley on the mound for the Cubs going up against Luis Severino for the Yankees. Let's start with Miley. Any interest at all in Wade Miley going up against the Yankees?
No, definitely not. I don't think I would ask Wade Miley to go and help with getting my drink in this. You
don't even trust him with a drink. All right.
2022, 15.4% strikeout rate, a 10.8% walk rate. Last year, 18.1% strikeouts in 163 innings over 28 starts. We just kind of know who Wade Miley is. The Yankees tattoo left-handed pitching, stack Yankees bats. It's definitely that kind of day.
All right, well then let's just move right on and tell me about that. Which Yankees bats do you have the most interest in? Are you going to be full stacking them? You're going to be short stacking them, playing one-offs?
You can play the lineup from 1 through 9. Higashioka, you can certainly question 157, 217, 205 with no homers so far this year. I will point out that for 3,200 and 2% ownership on DK, that's a catcher with a 56.7% hard hit percentage and a 10.4% barrel rate in 94 plate appearances. He hit like 8 home runs in spring training, left them all in Florida, but the home runs are coming for Kyle Higashioka. So I wouldn't cross him off at the bottom of the lineup. Hicks is fine for $3,000 on DK. Anybody from 1 through 6 is absolutely playable. It's a murderer's row with DJ, Aaron Judge, Anthony Rizzo, Giancarlo Stanton, Josh Donaldson, Gleyber Torres. You can roster Marwin Gonzalez. I begrudgingly say that. He's 2,200 on FanDuel with 3 position eligibility in the infield and outfield, 2 position eligibility, third base, outfield on DK limits him a little bit more, but he's still interesting. 2,100. I don't really believe in the bat all that much. He hasn't been a good hitter for several years, but at the price in a wraparound position in this lineup, it's not like you need to offset any ownership. Everybody except for Judge is owned well below 10% on the DK slate. Everybody except for Judge is in like the mid-teens to single digit ownership on FanDuel. So you don't need differentiation, but I think you can play Marwin if you want to. So 1 through 9, you can stack Yankees here.
All right, I just realized I haven't even registered at all for DraftKings yet today, so I got to do that now. But before I do, I want to hear what you have to say. Should I be putting Luis Severino in my lineup going up against the Cubs and their 3.2 run implied total?
Yeah, Sevy's an interesting spot here. He's properly priced. He's probably appropriately owned, 17% on FanDuel, 28 on DK the last time I updated. He sits kind of in the middle of projections for me, right in line with a lot of the higher end guys on the slate, the Musgroves of the world, the Luis Garcias of the world. So I do think it's a day where we've got 3 viable Luises on the slate with Luis Severino, Luis Garcia, and Luis Castillo. I think any one of those guys could give you a good start. Sevy's going to be I believe, most expensive of those 3 guys. He's also probably the most popular here, but you're getting him against a Cubs lineup that, they have decent numbers against left-handed pitching, but they're middling at best against righties this season. There's plenty of strikeouts in that lineup. 21.7% strikeout rate, sits exactly 15th in baseball against righties, 2.59% home run rate. I'm not even worried about that. 22nd in baseball. You think of the Cubs, you think of a couple good power hitters. That's against lefties. Against righties, they haven't hit for a ton of power this season. 3% better than average creating runs. Not really worried about it. Sevy's got plenty of upside. 27.6% strikeout rate, pitching as well as he ever has. No reason not to go to him here. You can play that ownership. It's a price play, really. If you want to spend 10,000 on your pitcher, you can do worse.
All right. Speaking of those middling Cubs, they're coming in at under 1% projected ownership on DraftKings. I haven't checked on FanDuel, but do you have any interest in the Cubs today up against Severino?
It's the same ownership situation on FanDuel. If you needed a cheap stack, they are playing in Yankee Stadium. They do have some capable home run bats in Ian Happ, Frank Schwindel, Pat Wisdom. Wilson Contreras can play any day as a catcher one-off. He's only 2.7% at 4,600 on DK. So that's another viable catcher play from this game. Very, very limited shares, but there's 30% of the field going to be on Luis Severino tonight. There are decent arguments for grabbing at least a few shares of Cubs stacks in Yankee Stadium to throw at that heavy ownership on a pitcher. So not a target, not a team I'm going out of my way for, but I wouldn't delete them from a handful of shares. If I saw them at 8-10% of my lineups, that might get concerning, but a little lower than that, it would be all right.
Okay. All right. Well, that's I think that does it for this game. Let's move on to the Oakland Athletics at the Cleveland Guardians. The Athletics have a 3.3 run implied total, Guardians at 4.2. Paul Blackburn on the mound for the A's, Tristan McKenzie for the Guardians. Let's start with Blackburn. Do you have any interest in Blackburn going up against the Guardians today?
I think I took him out of the pool. I'm pretty sure he wasn't in my player pool at the end. He was another one of those guys that was just borderline, projects a very low end start for me, but I think he's a somewhat capable pitcher. I just don't love the matchup for him here. If he was going up against a bad team, if he was matched up against, let's say, the Pirates like Spencer Strider today, I think you could actually argue for some shares of Paul Blackburn because he wouldn't still be getting all that much ownership attention, I don't think, at these 8K prices. In this spot against the Guardians team that, hits righties pretty hard, doesn't strike out very much at all. He's a low strikeout guy at 18.9% over 58 and a third this year in 11 starts. I just don't really see it. It wouldn't completely shock me if he put up a 27, 29, 30 point FanDuel score at 8,000 that was somewhat viable if you get to the right bats, but it's not really in the fat part of the realm of possibilities. And I just think there are other spots to go to. So not really for Blackburn here. Wouldn't totally blow me away, but it's not a guy who's in my pool.
Okay. And on the other side of the game, we've got the Guardians 4.2 run implied total. How much interest do you have in the Guardians as a full stack or as one-offs?
I would be surprised if I'm getting to that much of this team. I like Jose Ramirez. I've talked about Andres Jimenez a lot this season. I've talked about Ahmed Rosario a lot this season. The rest of this lineup, I don't love. Stephen Kwan is all right. Owen Miller's all right. Miles Straw is a slap hitter with a little bit of speed who doesn't get on base nearly enough to be totally relevant for fantasy purposes. So really it's like a 3-man lineup, maybe a little bit of Josh Naylor in there against a righty. You can pick off a lefty home run for cheap, but it's not a team that I love despite their, somewhat gaudy numbers against righties this year. I do believe in their strikeout rate and that they're going to put the ball in play a ton against Blackburn. They might create a lot of runs, but if I'm hunting for home runs, only Jose Ramirez stands out, 15 homers, and he's owned 12% on DK, 17% on FanDuel. You can use him, but there's probably better spots.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like not.
I left Oscar Gonzalez out of that
Okay.
equation. I did forget my guy Oscar there. I do love Oscar. So 2,400 on FanDuel and the dead minimum on DK. At dead minimum on DK, 6.1% ownership. He's got a lot of pop in that bat, so he's actually interesting there. That would be my maybe my one-off target for this lineup. Spend $2,000 on Oscar Gonzalez and then get a nice pricey bat from your main stack.
All right. So there is at least one couple of pretty strong endorsements.
Couple good hitters. Yeah. Couple good hitters.
All right. On the other side of the game, we've got Tristan McKenzie in a pretty great matchup against the Oakland A's. How much interest, if any, do you have in McKenzie here today?
I love the spot on FanDuel where you're paying up for him, 9,800. 5.2% of the field getting to him. One of my highest projected pitchers on the day. Oakland is, if not the worst, one of the worst lineups in baseball against both hands. There's nothing to fear for him in this lineup. 22.3% strikeout rate this season is good. 27.5% last year was better, but this year he's cut his walks from 11.7 last year to 7.3, cut his whip from 1.18 to 0.86. I will take those improvements from a kid who's very talented, knows how to strike hitters out when he needs to. An 11.1% swinging strike rate is fine. I think there's even more improvement coming from the kid. So I really like Tristan McKenzie. I'll take shares of him if nobody's going to him at that price on FanDuel. I think he's appropriately owned at 8,800 on DK, 22% ownership. I think there's plenty on the bone for him here. At the DK price and DK ownership, you could definitely go in different directions. There are other options at that price range, like Ashby's at 86. You could definitely argue for Ashby in that spot. But McKenzie's at worst up for the same kind of consideration and very much on the board on DK.
Okay, yeah, that all makes sense to me. What about the other side of it? Are you going to be playing any A's stacks against McKenzie?
No.
Okay, nice, concise. Well, then I will ask you, since you're so concise there, anything else you want to say about this game before we move on?
No, this one we can kind of move on from. I will say, just to hammer that Oscar Gonzalez home again. I didn't mean to skip over him because I do really like that bat. He's only 2,400 also on FanDuel, and over there he's only on 1.6% of the time. There's a homer lurking for Oscar Gonzalez in the near future. Might come tonight. So super cheap, hitting fifth in the lineup. You can definitely get to some shares of him as a one-off, and don't leave him out of stacks. That would be the main call to make here, and just nothing from the A's for me.
All right, I like it.
If they get me, they get me. That's fine.
Nice and easy there. All right.
Yep.
Up next, we've got the Toronto Blue Jays at the Detroit Tigers. Jose Barrios on the mound for the Jays. Elvin Rodriguez on the mound for the Tigers. The Jays have a 5.4 run implied total. The Tigers at 3.6. Jose Barrios, man, how the mighty have fallen. Not looking that great so far this year, but against the Tigers, is this a bounce back spot? How much interest do you have there?
Pretty minimal. I get it, because it's a great matchup going up against the Tigers here, but the field's kind of going there, and I'm not sure I believe in him enough to really want to put my chips down on that spot. It's just an average spot. 8,400 is kind of an average price. He's drawing appropriate ownership for him at that price. 75 on DK. Maybe he's slightly under-owned at 21% over there. That would be the more interesting spot where maybe you grab a few additional discount shares, put him in that same mix with the Kyle Gibsons of the world in that value range, the Rich Hills of the world. You can get there, but I don't love it. 19.8% strikeout rate, 4.37 xFIP, a 1.41 whip, 4.03% home run rate. Some cheap Tigers bats might be a little bit interesting here. I don't know. It's not a spot where I'm really, running to grab Tigers, but I'm not overly excited about the Jose Barrios spot here. I just think it's kind of appropriately owned by the field.
Do you want to expound on that then? Your maybe minor interest in the Tigers. Are you going to be doing any full stacks there, or are you just going to be playing some one-offs? What's who are you playing for the Tigers?
You could, right? This is an interesting enough top 5, maybe top 6 if we want to throw Harold Castro in there. 7 with Torkelson in there. So, all right, top 7 is at least interesting enough. There are hitters that I do believe are capable hitters there, going up against a guy who's going to allow them to put the ball in play, a guy who's allowed an inflated home run rate, a 48.3% hard hit this year for Barrios, a 13.3% barrel rate on a 17.9 degree average launch angle. I didn't think I was going to come to the show to sell anybody Tigers today. They're sitting at low single digit ownership, and he has kind of been a gas can all season long. I know it hasn't really worked out anytime we've chased the Tigers tail this season, but I think he can go there again. Robbie Grossman, Johnny Scope, Miguel Cabrera, Austin Meadows, Javi Baez, Harold Castro, Spencer Torkelson. At no ownership whatsoever. All those guys under 3K and well under on FanDuel. All those guys except for Scope and Harold Castro, believe it or not, under 4K on DK. It's at least interesting to poke at. It depends on what comes up in combination with them, but that could be your key to unlocking 2 premium pitchers on DK along with like a Blue Jays and Yankees stack.
I like it. Yeah. So I think Eric Lindquist is loving
stack,
this.
Along with a full Yankee stack.
Full Yankee stack. Yeah.
Right. Because you're obviously using the Tigers.
Right. I mean, Eric has been saying all year how much he hates Jose Barrios, so I'm sure he loves hearing you shit on him. All right. Other side of the game, we've got Elvin Rodriguez on the mound for Detroit, going up against a dangerous Blue Jays lineup. Any interest in Elvin Rodriguez?
Oh my God, no.
All right.
He's the guy that would bump into the guy carrying the drink to knock the drink over and smash it on the floor. And that's what Elvin Rodriguez brings to this slate. 16 innings this year, 19.4% strikeout rate, 5.04 xFIP, 10.13 ERA. That's a 10 with a T and 1 and a 0, 1.69 whip. He is a massive, massive target for Blue Jays bats here for me. I hand built my placeholder lineup at like 2:00 in the morning, and it was the Blue Jays were the first thing I clicked on in there. Actually, no, the first thing I clicked on was Spencer Strider, of course, but then I clicked on Blue Jays bats. It's a pretty chalky placeholder, but God, the placeholders always just look like the best lineup ever created when they go in. That's how I feel about it right now. I love this spot for the Toronto bats. I will have none of Elvin Rodriguez.
Nice little tease there for Spencer Strider. I should say, I mean, Elvin Rodriguez has a over 10 ERA, but his expected ERA is much better at 5.01. So
half.
Exactly. All right. So then tell me about your Blue Jays interest. I mean, you just said that it's your favorite, maybe your favorite stack on the board. How much? Yeah. Tell me about your Blue Jays interest. Are you going to be full stacking, playing a lot of one-offs? What's your plan here?
Yeah, I think on a slate with plenty of options, it's easy enough to play full stacks of any team that you really want to. So I'll be full stacking any team that I enthusiastically talk about in terms of these stacks. And the Blue Jays are a team that I stack a fair amount of the time anyway. I think they play from 1 through 9 with this version of the lineup. So I'm happy to go there. The obvious targets up top are the super expensive guys, not really revealing anything there. George Springer, Bo Bichette, Vladdy Guerrero, Teoscar Hernandez. Any of those guys can be in my lineup pretty much any day. They're drawing between 9% and 12% popularity on DK for the 5,000 price tags. They're drawing in the mid-teens on FanDuel for a little bit lower relative price. And then Teoscar on FanDuel is somehow priced at 2,800 and pulling 21% ownership, which is the highest ownership mark on either site for this team. It falls off immediately in the middle of the lineup. Alejandro Kirk under 10% on both sites. Santiago Espinal, Matt Chapman in the low single digits. Lourdes Gurriel and Kevin Biggio, I know haven't been great producers, but I still believe in both of those players, and I can include them at 4% ownership on both sites. Kevin Biggio gives you multi-position eligibility on both sites for $2,000 price tags. Nothing not to like about this matchup, this spot for the Blue Jays. Vladdy was my home run call today. He's got a Titanic number in my home run model.
All right. Somebody was asking for dong picks earlier. So you just gave Vlad. I was going to say jokingly, Vlad Guerrero would be my, I mean, because he's always a pretty good choice, but apparently he looks good in your model as well. So glad to hear we're on the same page. You want to play some Vlad Guerrero today. Really going out on a limb. Anything else you want to say about this game before I do our first read?
The Blue Jays overall were somewhere. I do the summary, the power index is what I call it in my article, where I summarize the various teams and their home run chances by giving the full average and the average of the top 6. The Blue Jays were like doubling up the field in terms of their home run upside today. It is just a fantastic spot. So kind of like what you were just saying, it's just nice when the numbers validate the opinion from the night before when you first see the slate. And this looks like an absolute smash spot going up against Elvin here. So fire away with Blue Jays.
All right, Terry, take a break, get a drink. Let me tell people about the Awesemo Plus Platinum Pass. You can get access to all the great Awesemo tools and Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus Platinum Pass. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, lineup builder, our premium Discord channel, and much more. Now, if you're a new user of Awesemo Plus Platinum, then you can save 50% on your first month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. All you have to do is click the link in the video description below to activate this offer, or you can head to our join page and use promo code MLB Live, all caps, one word, that's MLB Live, for 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Again, this is for new users only. Of course, if you're only interested in playing MLB DFS, then you can sign up now for an Awesemo Plus MLB package for as low as $18.95 weekly. Please note that Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and is not included in our base packages, but can easily be added at checkout. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. All right, Terry, we made it a third of the way through the slate. Doing pretty good time-wise. This is impressive for us. Next up, we've got the Pittsburgh Pirates at the Atlanta Braves. Roansy Contreras on the mound for the Pirates against Spencer Strider, who you've already teased a little bit here. Let's start with Roansy Contreras, though. Are you going to be playing any? His stats actually look pretty good so far. Are you going to be playing any Roansy Contreras against the Braves today?
Yeah, Roansy Contreras has been kind of interesting here. 27.4% strikeout rate in 23 and a third, 3 starts this season, 8.4% walks. You can give or take that, but a 3.30 xFIP, a sparkling 1.93 ERA, a 31.3% CSW with a 13.2 induced swinging strike. A little bit of hard contact with a 40% hard hit, 10% barrel rate, but only a 2.11% home run rate. I just don't love the matchup. I do think he can find some strikeout upside here. I just don't like tangling with this Braves lineup with, less than kind of pitchers. And until he does it over a larger sample, I'm going to keep Contreras in that bucket. I do think he's not necessarily one of these apex type of starters that I'm willing to throw at the Braves when I go strikeout hunting. The price at 6,700 is fine on DK. You can get there on DK at 3.5% ownership. There is a world where he goes out and strikes out 6 or 7 Braves tonight, gives up only 3 or 4 runs and has a serviceable start, handful of points. It's just a big slate. So it's not necessarily one of those nights where that handful of points start is going to get you enough. So I don't know that I fully believe in it. The Braves hit for a ton of power. 3.50 home run rate is 6th in baseball against righties. A 1.73 ISO is 8th, but their strikeout rate is significant, 26.3% strikeout rate. So you put that next to his, it does look like at least a compelling spot. There's an argument to be made for getting above the field on both sides. 7,500 on FanDuel is easy enough. If you're going down to that low level, you can get there. It's just for every share of Contreras I grab, I might be sacrificing a share of Spencer Strider at 7,200 on the other side of this game with a much, much better matchup.
Okay, yep, makes sense to me. So he looks good in a vacuum, but in the context of the slate with the other pitchers available around him, maybe not somebody that you're going to be getting to a ton.
That would have been a faster way to say it.
I mean, it was good to run it through, I think. All right, you said, I mean, the Braves, as we know, are always a dangerous team. You don't fully trust Contreras yet, so how much interest do you have in the Braves then going up against Contreras?
Some. They're low owned enough that would just make them pop for me. Acuna is the only player owned anywhere near 10%. He's at 12 on DK, 13 on FanDuel. Everybody else in the single digits to very, very low single digits. And I do not think Contreras has earned that kind of respect from the field. They're a little bit pricey on DK, which explains some of the low ownership, but they should be higher on than this. On FanDuel, there's really no excuse for their ownership to be this low against this pitcher. I do think I'm going to get aggressive and push some additional shares of Brave stacks in now that I'm looking at it. Acuna's fine to own despite the popularity. Dansby, Austin Riley, Matt Olson through the middle. Ozzie Albies, you can take or leave Travis d'Arnaud on FanDuel. You can use him on DK where he's 5,300 as a catcher. It's a little bit pricey. You do get Contreras in the lineup for 4,800 as another catcher, 37 on FanDuel. Adam Duvall, Michael Harris. This lineup plays 1 through 9. So yeah, I think I'll load up a few additional shares of Braves if the field is going to just leave them there.
Yeah, they definitely look interesting in this spot.
Yeah. All right, their bats are owned as though he was getting like 35% ownership for that 6,700 price tag. Right. For them to come in at 1%, they're like low. I said, they're pricey, but that is low.
Yeah, it's very low. All right. So on the other side of this, you've already teased your interest in Spencer Strider. Do you have interest in on both sites in Spencer Strider? Is he a play that you're going to on FanDuel, and would you go there on DraftKings as well?
Yeah, I'm actually, I think, more excited about it on FanDuel for 15% ownership at 7,200. I question the ability to get to the quality start like I think everybody does. He threw plenty of pitches in the last outing. I think it was like 89 some odd pitches. So I think he's on the board for 90 pitches if all goes to plan. The question becomes, how many people is he going to walk? Is he going to use those pitches efficiently? Because we are chasing strikeouts with this pitcher. So we know he's going to use up a lot of his pitches hitting those strikeout numbers that we need from him. 32% ownership for 7K on DK. That's probably correct. It's starting to push the boundaries of where I would want him, though, given that inflated walk rate. I love this pitcher. I think very, very highly of him. 13.5% walk rate, though, is definitely questionable. We saw that walk rate bite in the last start. That said, 36.8% strikeout rate going up against one of the worst lineups in baseball with just plenty of strikeouts on the table for him. You want to have it. You want to have a big part of it. It's just a matter of where you come in relative to that field ownership and what you're doing with those other shares. Like, are you putting those into Kyle Gibson against that tough, somewhat tough anyway, Arizona lineup? Are you going to Barrios and his questionable production so far against that low-end Detroit lineup? Rich Hill against Seattle? It's a question of what you do with those additional shares, given the amount of bats that 7,000 price tag can buy you. I would be fine getting them at the field's 30%. Even if you went a little bit higher, I wouldn't totally call you crazy. I think my general inclination is to go lower than the field on a lot of plays like that. But I think the field is not making a mistake putting him in lineups that aggressively. He is a very, very good strikeout pitcher and an excellent matchup.
Yeah, great matchup. You mentioned his massive walk rate. How about the other side of this game? So he's playing against the Pirates. Does the massive walk rate make you more or less interested in the Pirates? And how much interest do you have in the Pirates?
No, I think I'm going to just lean into the Strider side of this one. I think I'll leave the Pirates for others to go to. If he was left-handed, it would be maybe a little bit more interesting. They're just a lot better against lefties than they are against righties so far this season. If you want to grab a couple shares to hedge against that ownership on DK specifically, I think it's fine. If you want to call that a hedge spot where you're like actively attacking it despite not owning Strider, that's a little bit questionable with this lineup. There's just not a lot of quality. If I was doing it, it would be all about Brian Hayes, Brian Reynolds, Dan Vogelbach, and Michael Chavis, maybe some Cal Mitchell. That's about it.
All right, right on. Let's move on then to the next game. We've got the Texas Rangers at the Chicago White Sox. Colby Allard filling in for Texas today, going up against Reynaldo Lopez opening, followed by Davis Martin for the White Sox. Let's start with Allard. Any interest in Allard today against the White Sox?
No, you can safely cross this guy off your pitching pool here, and I'll save you a moment. You can cross both White Sox pitchers off as well.
All right. That's great. We can skip all the pitchers here. But with Colby Allard filling in, doesn't have great stats this year, didn't have great stats last year. How much interest do you have in the White Sox? Are going to be full stacking or playing one-offs there?
Yeah, we were talking about it pre-show. It did interesting things, gave a little boost to the White Sox in my home run model across the board. So definitely some additional interest from where I was earlier in the day in the Chicago Bats. They're getting a little bit of ownership, but it's not that much. It's another situation where the leadoff hitter, AJ Pollock, is pulling the most ownership, 12% on DK, 14% on FanDuel. Highly playable ownership for that kind of a player for the cheap price. He's popular because he's too cheap for his talent. Then you get into Andrew Vaughn, Luis Robert, Jose Abreu. Jake Berger is fine in the middle of the lineup. I would probably move Joan Moncada and Just Money Grandal.
I should interrupt you here because you're saying this all based on Colby Allard. Apparently Matt Bush is now starting for Texas, according to chat. I should double check that, but I think I heard that. I saw somebody post that earlier as well.
All right.
So I don't know if that is going to change your numbers.
Yeah, it does look like Bush popped in now. So that was a change from before when we started the show. It might retemper the expectations in terms of the home run upside for that White Sox lineup. Bush is not a pitcher to be feared by any means. I'm just looking what he's going to be doing in terms of, Bush is probably opening this and then handing it off to Allard. Because Bush he's maxed out at one inning this season in a bunch of relief appearances. So
all right.
I expect that this is a Matt Bush opening appearance and then probably giving the ball to Colby Allard. So I will continue my belief in the White Sox.
Sorry for interrupting.
I want to. Yeah. No. It was good. It was a good call. Definitely worth calling out. But yeah, I think I'm still interested in the White Sox here. I'm not going to fear Matt Bush, and assuming we're getting either Colby Allard or just some version of something coming out of the Rangers bullpen, I don't really care what name is on the jersey at that point. You're telling me I'm getting the Rangers bullpen. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, for sure. That's worth playing. So the White Sox, would you rank them? Are they one of your top 5 stacks today on FanDuel? You think you'll be playing a fair amount of White Sox or not quite there?
They'd probably be in that range, just given what their ownership looks like on here. After I do the sort, it'll probably elevate to around that range where, they might be top 5. It's a very large slate, though, kind of hard to predict.
All right, you made it easy on me. You already said no interest in either pitcher for the White Sox. How about Rangers bats in this matchup with the White Sox bullpen?
Yeah, I think you can get there. I think you're going to get a decent, chunk of Reynaldo Lopez to start, and then Davis Martin doesn't exactly inspire fear. 17.4% strikeout rate this year, so you can go to the Rangers bats here. They've been a little bit. Oh, that's what I did with the Nationals line. They popped up in the Rangers spot. Apparently I pasted it in the wrong spot. The Rangers have been a little bit underwhelming early in the season, but they've kind of come on as late. Semien coming on a little bit. Corey Seager's a star. Adolis Garcia can always be in my lineup. Cole Calhoun, a little lefty righty power there, particularly opening the game against Lopez. If he gets that first inning at bat, Cole Calhoun hitting cleanup, you could see an early home run from him there. So I don't mind that. At least 1 through 4. You can work in the Sam Huffs of the world. Brad Miller hiding in the 7 spot, and Ezekiel Duran is actually a little bit interesting. Multi-position eligible infielder for the dead minimum on FanDuel. So yeah, they're not a primary target for me, but I would take whatever stacks I get of the Rangers here.
All right, so some interest in the bats here. No pitches from the Rangers White Sox game. Easy enough. Let's move on. Tampa Bay Rays going up against my Minnesota Twins. Drew Rasmussen on the mound for the Rays, Devin Smeltzer for the Twins. Let's start with Rasmussen. Do you have any interest there at 9,400 on DraftKings, or any interest on FanDuel in Drew Rasmussen going up against the Twins?
Don't think I was getting too much of them, and it was something that I said earlier in the day, boy, I should probably look into that spot, and I just really haven't gotten that much time to dig into those lineups. 8,200 on FanDuel. I feel like I should be getting to a little bit more of them, but he's kind of suppressed in my model in terms of the Twins offensive output potential. 9,400 on DK. I just think he's a little bit high priced over there. He could definitely come out and have a decent game for strikeouts at 21.6% on the season, a 3.42 xFIP, but he induces 11.2% swinging. And there are enough strikeouts in that Twins lineup that it wouldn't totally shock me. I just think he's a little bit too highly priced on the DK slate. He could be a kind of an interesting dart throw if you just want a weird little pivot from that mid-range on FanDuel at 8,200 there, though, with really nobody at all going to him.
Yeah, I mean, he's expensive on DraftKings at 9,400. Seems expensive relative to his underlying stats so far this year to me, but sometimes those are fine spots to go to if nobody else is going to. We saw this Twins lineup, though, just completely blow up Garrett Cole yesterday. They had like 6 home runs in like 2 innings. No, that's an exaggeration, but they did blow up Garrett Cole yesterday. I love to see it. You probably did not. If they can do that to Garrett Cole, I think they can do it to Drew Rasmussen. How much interest in the Twins lineup today?
Yeah, I have a feeling they could do that to Drew Rasmussen here. He's given up only a 2.35% home run rate, but a 38.8% hard hit there, a 7.2% barrel rate. There's a little bit to believe in there. He does have a pretty good 7.8 degree average launch angle. So, he's decent at keeping the ball in the yard. He was the same last year over 76 innings, but he's gettable with these bats. I mean, there are some very, very good home run hitters in this lineup. They're not spiking to the top of my home run model, but I would never say that Byron Buxton couldn't hit one out off somebody. Same for Carlos Correa, Max Kepler, Gary Sanchez. Trevor Larnach isn't quite in that territory, but I think he's got a decent home run bat. Jorge Polanco, same story. So at least 1 through 7. I don't think very much of Gio Urshela, which I think people out there know by now, but he's got 5 home runs on the year. He's at least somewhat useful. Nick Gordon, not very much at the bottom of the lineup, but 1 through 7 for me, I can play some Twins.
I think you talk about how much you don't think Urshela is good, even when he's not on the slate. You just love talking about how much you hate Gio Urshela. All right.
He's one of those guys. Yeah. Him and Luke Voigt, I just bring into any conversation.
Right.
Just helps to disprove my my Yankees homerdom, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
A couple former Yanks there.
Does it? Because now they're gone. I don't know.
Well, I was saying the same thing when they were on the team, and I'm consistent now that they're gone. I don't have to worry about it.
That's fair. All right. Other side of the game, we've got Devin Smeltzer on the mound for the Twins going up against the Rays. Any interest in Smeltzer today?
No, not really. 7,200, 7,800 across sites. No ownership to speak of. If you want it, it's there, but I don't believe in the pitcher. 12.5% strikeout rate. No, thanks. Not against this Rays team. They're too good.
That was quick and easy. How about this Rays team that is too good then? Are you going to be playing Rays stacks? Are you going to play in one-offs? How much, who are you interested in? How much interest do you have?
Yeah, they're pulling a little bit of ownership on the DK slate. Harold Ramirez is pulling about 12% because he's only 2,400 over there. If you're not familiar, Harold Ramirez, despite not being a tremendous home run hitter, has a 49.2% hard hit rate from the right side of the plate this year over 145 plate appearances. That's very good. He hits the ball hard. He just hits it kind of on the line instead of out of the park. Creating runs 10% better than average. Solid little 2-hitter there. Manny Margot up top is fine. Yandy Diaz. But it's really, Randy Arozarena you can grab there. Isaac Paredes is kind of interesting from the middle of the lineup. Even Brett Phillips hiding all the way down at the bottom of the lineup for the dead minimum on FanDuel. All these guys are very cheap. They're low owned. It's not a priority stack for me, but I think if you want a cheap, kind of sneaky stack, most particularly on FanDuel where they're lower owned, the Rays are on the board for you against Smeltzer here. He's not an intimidating pitcher.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. All right, Terry, we've made it through 8 games. We've got 25 minutes left. But before we move on to the next game, let me tell people about our sponsor, OddsShopper. Make your best bets in 30 seconds or less with OddsShopper. With hundreds of bets featured daily, OddsShopper gives you the edge you need betting player props and game lines across all sports. Sign up for free now via the link in the video description below to gain access to our proprietary data, which will help you make your best bets. With expected win percentages and ROIs included, OddsShopper uses the same DFS projections we use here at Awesemo to filter out the best bets available. OddsShopper also features a parlay builder with optimized parlays and an arbitrage tool that identifies risk-free, guaranteed profit bets that you can make across sports books. All right, Terry, 7 games left. Let's lead off this second half with the Miami Marlins at the Houston Astros. Pablo Lopez on the mound for the Marlins, Luis Garcia for the Astros. Let's start with Pablo Lopez. Do you have any interest in a tough matchup against the Astros?
Oh, I love Pablo Lopez. I can get to Pablo Lopez against anybody. So yeah, I can definitely see that one coming through. I'm just trying to find this game. We have the games in a little bit of a different order. There we go. So yeah, Pablo 10-1 on DK, 10-4 on FanDuel, but nobody's going here. It's a rough matchup. Like you said, the Astros hit everybody well. They don't strike out very much. Everybody except for the bottom 3 hitters in this lineup is well under 20% strikeout rate for the season. Jeremy Payne is at 23. Chas McCormick's at 23. Both of those guys are very good hitters. Martin Maldonado is a wasted spot at the bottom of the lineup, but he's a good catcher, so we'll forgive that. But I think Pablo's got the talent to get through this lineup a couple times over, find his strikeouts where he needs them. 26.1% strikeout rate this year in 66 innings. He pitches deep into games. He picks up the quality start when he pitches a lot of the time. 0.97 whip. He doesn't get himself in trouble. Doesn't put too many guys on base via the free pass. Limits hard contact, only 32.4% hard hit rate, a 2.33% home run rate. There's a lot of reason to believe in Pablo Lopez. What we're seeing is very, very real. It's sustained over a very long sample at this point. So if nobody else is going there, I will take shares of Pablo Lopez, even against a very good Astros team.
All right, makes sense. So if you love Pablo Lopez that much, you've also got the Astros on the other side. They're only getting 0.6% ownership on DraftKings today. I don't know what the number is on FanDuel. I'm guessing it's not very high. Are you going to be playing any Astros in a very low-owned spot with a dangerous team, or is Pablo Lopez just too good that you don't want to consider him?
Yeah, in honor of our pal Gundacker, I think we're actually looking at a double scumbacker here. I want all 4 corners of this one. I want Luis Garcia on the other mound. I want Astros. I want Marlins, and I want Pablo Lopez. So yeah, both of these teams are under-owned at the plate just because the pitchers are very good. So people are not necessarily going to these offenses. The Marlins have been fantastic against right-handed pitching this season. Luis Garcia, like I said, I want to roster shares of him. He's very cheap at 8,900 on FanDuel. 91's around the right price, but still a little cheap on DK. Solid strikeout pitcher. Very, very capable of pitching through this lineup, but they're frisky enough against righties that I want to answer right back with Marlins shares. So I'll have all 4 sides of this. Astros, Spats, you start with Jose Altuve, Michael Brantley, Alex Bregman, Jordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker. Yeah, you know what? This lineup plays from 1 through 8. I already talked about the bottom guys. Leave Martin Maldonado out unless you're desperate for a catcher bat. And there you go. There's your Astros.
All right. I mean, you kind of just made it short and sweet for me, just telling me about all 4 sides of the game at once. Do you want to expound on any of that, or is that enough to just say that, yeah, you have some interest in getting over the field on all 4 sides of this one?
Yeah, I mean, you could leave it at the, just stack the Marlins call there, but it would be mostly about the top end of that lineup. Jazz Chisholm, a little bit of Garrett Cooper, Jorge Soler for sure, Jesus Aguilar for sure, Jesus Sanchez for sure. John Birdie can definitely be in there. He's a sneaky player, a little bit of power, a lot of speed, gets on base at a nice clip. So nice correlated scoring option. It's another lineup that kind of falls off in the bottom end, though. You get a little bit of infrequent pop out of Jacob Stallings from time to time, but it hasn't really come through at all this year. Only 1 home run in 151 plate appearances. Miguel Rojas, similar story, 4 home runs this year. Minor involvement in the offense from those guys. So it would be about the top 6 for me, I think, from Miami.
All right. Perfect. I think we covered that game pretty well. We can move on to, I think we can make the first half of this easy as well. We've got the Baltimore Orioles at the Kansas City Royals. Let's start with the pitchers. Do you have any interest at all in either of Bruce Zimmerman for the Orioles or Jonathan Heasley for the Royals? Any interest in either of them?
No, there's a famous quote from the movie Major League where the owner just, a guy points out that a guy on the list had died, and she says, cross him off then. Cross these guys off your list. They're dead.
That was easy. It was quick. All right. Well, then let's talk about the bats. These pitchers, pretty horrendous numbers this year. I think that generally is going to make you a little bit interested in the bats, possibly. Let's start with the Royals. How much interest do you have in Royals as stacks or as one-offs?
At the ownership that they're pulling, I don't love getting to like full stacks in large shares. I would have some that I would let come in around the edges, but it's a team that I talk about it a lot outside of Sal Perez, and maybe we're seeing it a little bit from MJ Melendez in the middle of the lineup here, maybe a little bit from Bobby Witt. There's not a lot of power in this lineup. There's not a lot of home run hitting upside. They haven't been great for correlated scoring. They haven't been great for run creation. A lot of slap hitters, a lot of on base hit tool and speed oriented guys that I don't really love stacking. They don't strike out a ton. So I could see them putting the ball in play and just, sequencing Bruce Zimmerman, who is not very good at all, just sequencing him to death here. But it's not really a target for me with 11% of the field on Sal on DK, 13% on FanDuel. I would probably grab some shares of MJ as a one-off. He certainly did me right last night. I can go right back there on FanDuel at 2,600 and 2% ownership. I do like the power in his bat, so I'll grab some of that. If you want to stack them, it's Benintendi. Merrifield can be involved. So Merrifield, Benintendi, Witt, Perez, and Melendez for me. Maybe a few shares of Carlos Santana, but I'm starting to not believe anymore in that one. So limited interest in the Royals side. I prefer the Orioles side if I'm going to this game for bats.
All right, so mostly one-offs, but maybe there are ways you could potentially stack it up on the Royal side, not one of your top stacks. So on the other side, so how you say that you have more interest in the Orioles? Tell me about that interest. How much interest, and are you going to be full stacking, playing one-offs? What's your plan here?
I could see myself getting to some full stacks. They're very low owned on the FanDuel slate. Everybody under 5%, except for, once again, the leadoff man. It's underpriced $3,100 Cedric Mullins, drawing 15% ownership. Dude stole 30 bases and hit 30 home runs last year. We don't need to be leaving him on the table. So I get it. He's underpriced. Everybody else in the lineup is cheap and under-owned. Trey Mancini, Santander, Austin Hayes, Ryan Mountcastle, Adley Rutschman can be in my lineup for sure. I don't really like Rougned Odor. That's another guy you can take or leave. Little bit of power, but not much of a bat to speak of in general. I actually prefer Ramon Urias in that situation if I'm looking for a cheap infielder from the back end of this lineup. Nice little 50.8% hard hit with a 9.4% barrel from Urias. And everybody knows I kind of like Jorge Mateo just because of his blazing speed, 14 stolen bases despite just a 242 on base. If the guy gets on, he's going. So he can be involved, wrap around play for a little bit of correlated scoring. You're just hoping and praying that he gets on base. If he hits one out for you, 4 home runs this year, so much the better.
All right. Anything else that you want to say about this game? Then it sounds like most of your interest comes in the Orioles bats, a little bit of interest in the Royals bats, no pitchers. Does that pretty much sum it up, or anything else you want to say here?
Well, I think that says it all, actually. Well,
perfect.
Nice,
all right.
Solid little summary.
All right, moving on. Cincinnati Reds at the St. Louis Cardinals. We've got Luis Castillo on the mound for the Reds, Andre Palante for the Cardinals. Let's start with Luis Castillo. Pretty tough matchup against the Cardinals. How much interest do you have in Luis Castillo here?
Another one that if the field doesn't want Luis Castillo, I will take him, especially at 8,700 on FanDuel, 8,500 on DK. The DK spot, especially 8,500, that's a little bit low for him, and he's only drawing 5% ownership. I think that's an interesting spot at least. The Cards don't strike out very much against anybody, but they get most of their power, most of their home run hitting against the other hand, against lefties this season. So you can go after them a little bit with righty bats. They only have a 148 ISO, which ranks 18th, and a 2.78% home run rate, which ranks 16th in the split against righties. They're 5th best in baseball with just a 19.8% strikeout rate, but that's pretty tightly packed. Like the 12th ranked team is at 21%. That's the Yankees against righties. There's not that much, there's not that much daylight between those two numbers. So they're kind of in the middle as in terms of the strikeouts. There are some available. They have created runs 12% better than average in the split. So there is some concern for run creation. Certainly a lot of those numbers don't necessarily account for Nolan Gorman's presence in the lineup now because he was in the minors for most of the season. He's already hit 3 home runs in 58 plate appearances, hits from the left side of the plate, makes him a little bit different against righties. But with Castillo's upside, we've seen him, approach high 20s strikeout rates before, sitting at 25.2% so far this season in 33 innings, 3.22 xFIP. There is plenty of reason to believe in Luis Castillo in this spot. So I will definitely take shares at low single digit ownership.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Is this a Gundacker spot? You're going to be playing any, Slumdacker? Is this a Slumdacker spot? Are you going to be playing any cards on the other side of it?
Is it Slumdacker or Scumdacker? I thought it was
Scumdacker. You're right. Scumdacker. I just got it wrong twice. Yeah, it's
Slumdacker,
Scumdacker.
a whole other play. It's a whole other thing he's got. He hasn't told us about yet, I'm sure. No, I don't. Yeah, sorry, I was answering the wrong question. I was going to say, no, I don't need any shares of Neil Pallante or Andre Pallante or whichever Pallante happens to be pitching for the Cardinals tonight. I would have limited interest in Cards bats, especially if I get overweight to the field on Castillo. I think you can grab plenty of Edman, Gorman, Goldschmidt, Arenado, O'Neill, maybe some Brendan Donovan, top 6 here at 3.5% ownership for the most popular guy in that group. You can definitely get there. So it's a lineup I like a lot. I'm happy to get Cards when I get them, but yeah, that's a firm both sides are for me.
All right. Yeah. Pallante. It's a good song by Hooray for the Riffraff. I really, Hooray for the Riffraff. I enjoyed the song Pallante. Check it out.
That's a
how about Andre Pallante though? Any interest there in Andre Pallante against the Reds today?
No, I actually do have his name as Neil Pallante. Is that a different guy? Do we know? Is there 2 different guys here?
Did you just
I'm
put
not
my
really
name
sure,
in there?
I don't want either of them. So it doesn't
All
really matter for our purposes here, but if chat wants to look that up, I'm a little bit curious, but yeah, there's no reason to roster either Pallante in this situation. I have a friend named Lou Pallante. I also would not play him in this situation.
All right. So no Pallante here. What about the Reds then on the other side? It sounds like it's probably a pretty good matchup. The numbers look pretty bad for Pallante, which means that the numbers must look pretty. It's a good spot for the Reds. They only got a 3.7 run implied total though. How much interest there?
Yeah, they're kind of a limited team. If you go there, I would go to Brendan Drury, Tommy Pham, Joey Votto, kind of the obvious guys. Aristides Aquino hiding at the bottom of the lineup in the 8 spot, dead minimum price on DK, 2,300 on FanDuel. Nice little opportunity to hit a home run for Aquino. So don't sleep on him. If you want a super cheap one-off with some home run upside, that's not a bad play on either site. So you can go there as a one-off. You can go to the 2, 3, 4 hitters for a stack. It's not a priority spot for me though. They're very low owned. Like I wouldn't tell anybody they were necessarily making a mistake, and definitely against this pitching staff, it's just not been a priority team for me. And they're not exactly, strung from top to bottom with bats that I really like to get to.
Yeah, not a good enough team that you really want to be forcing in the Reds bats, even in a great matchup.
Exactly.
I did confirm that on DraftKings, at least, he's listed as Andre Pallante. Maybe elsewhere he's Neil Pallante. You never know. Anything else you want to say about this game before we move on, though?
Nah, we can hop onto the other one. I'm gonna drop some lineups in my sheet here.
All right, easy enough. Well, then let me tell you about the Awesemo MVP text program. Get exclusive Awesemo discounts and the first crack at beta testing new tools and features by joining our Awesemo MVP text program. Sign up by texting MVP22 to 1-660-656 4417. Again, that's MVP 22 to 1-660-656-4417, and you'll automatically be entered to win a year of Awesemo Plus Platinum. For more information, simply click the link in the video description below. All right. We've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 games left to do in 12 minutes. We can do that. All right, let's start. New York Mets at Los Angeles Angels. The Mets have a 4.4 run implied total. Angels 4.1. Tyler McGill on the mound for the Mets. Jonathan Diaz for the Angels. Let's start with McGill. How much interest do you have in McGill in this matchup with the Angels?
That could be a frisky spot. I wouldn't be totally shocked to see McGill put up a decent start here. I think he's a lot more interesting for 8,800 and 0.5% ownership on FanDuel, where I'll probably have a few shares. It's a handful. It's not really somebody I'm going way out of my way for here. But against this version of the Angels lineup and a lineup that has plenty of strikeouts in it under any circumstances, I do think there's upside for a kid that had a 26% strikeout rate over 89 and 2/3 last year, 25.7 and 34 and 2/3 this year. McGill's got strikeout acumen. He's just a little high price for my taste at 9,700 on DK. That's asking a lot. There are other pitchers to go to in that price tier. He's not getting owned. You're not making a mistake if you put him in. There is upside there, but there's probably more upside in other arms on DK for the money. So I like him better on FanDuel.
All right. So McGill, he has a pretty high strikeout rate, but he's also got a 3.84 expected ERA. That's pretty middling, kind of good. How much interest do you have in the Angels against McGill here?
Not that much. I haven't seen the confirmed. Do we know if Trout is in? Trout wasn't in the projected. Don't think they've confirmed yet, but he's not in the projected. If you get that no Trout version of this lineup, I mean, that's them taking another massive hit. If you want to go to it, my recommendations would be to look at Shohei Ohtani, Joe Adell, Jared Walsh, maybe Max Stassi if you like catchers, maybe Brandon Marsh if you like outfielders. There's not that much else there.
All right, easy enough. Other side of the game, we've got Jonathan Diaz on the mound for the Angels against the Mets. How much interest, if any, do you have in Jonathan Diaz here?
Absolutely none.
Perfect.
easily move on, even at 4,000 on DK. I just don't think that's your spot. I was warning people off of that spot this morning. Guy walks plenty of people, gives up way too much contact, plenty of hard hit. There's just really no reason to go here.
All right, easy enough. Well, then if you're not playing any Jonathan Diaz, how much interest do you have in the Mets? Are you going to be stacking up the Mets at all, playing one-offs? Tell me about your interest there.
Yeah, plenty of reason to go to the Mets. No Pete Alonso, probably that's going to suck, but they're still very, very good. Brandon Nimmo, Marcana, Francisco Lindor, JD Davis, Eduardo Escobar. I don't really love Jeff McNeil, but Luis Guillorme's having a nice little season. McNeil is too. I got to throw him in the mix there. You can go to those Mets. It's a depleted version of the lineup. No Starling Marte in it either in the projected lineup. So especially if they don't have Marte, it might limit my interest a little bit. But I do think against this pitcher, you can go to that lineup and draw some decent expectations. And they're all owned in the 1% to 2% range. So nobody's going there. It's another spot. Nobody going there. I'm happy to. And they're pretty cheap too. $2,900 Brandon Nimmo on FanDuel can always be in my lineup.
Yeah, right on. Sounds good to me. Moving on, we've got the Colorado Rockies at the San Diego Padres. The Rockies have, I believe, the lowest implied run total on the board today with a 2.8 run implied total. Padres at 4.7. We've got Chad Kuhl on the mound for the Rockies, Joe Musgrove for the Pods. Let's start with Chad Kuhl. How much interest do you have there?
No interest in good old Chad here. This is too big a slate to have any real love for him, so I'm not going there.
All right, let's skip over Chad Kuhl then. How about the Padres on the other side? 4.7 run implied total. Not too bad. It's in San Diego. Sadly, we didn't get the Coors game, but how much interest do you have in the Padres today?
I tell you, it's still that same lineup with just Manny Machado in it that I really think is a very good hitter. We've seen Hosmer crash back to earth. Nomar Mazara is shockingly on this team somehow and still in the major leagues. Jerkson Profar had a decent start to the season, but he's not doing much late. I just don't love it. If you wanted to go there, it's Profar, maybe Cronenworth, Manny, Luke Voigt, maybe some Hosmer. Not the greatest lineup in the world. So very, very limited shares. I would probably look to be under the field on Padres, even against Chad Kuhl.
All right. Even in San Diego. All right. The other side of it, though, I mean, Joe Musgrove, we mentioned that the Rockies have the lowest implied run total, I believe, on the 2.8 run implied total. Very low either way. How much interest do you have in Joe Musgrove in this matchup?
I have lots, which is why I'm actually just now getting into my sort process here and seeing that I'm going to have to give him a little bit of a nudge because his price is not necessarily making him pop. But he's pitched very, very well all season long. 3.26 xFIP, a dazzling 1.64 ERA, 24.8% strikeout rate, 0.92 whip, 5.4% walks, keeping the hard hit down, keeping the barrels at 4.5%. Nothing not to love about Joe Musgrove in this spot. Maybe the price tag 10.5 is a little high, 30% of the field on him. If you wanted to go in another direction, you can, but this is one of the better pitching spots on the slate at any price or ownership. 10.9 on FanDuel, 13% ownership goes to prove that point. I will be trying to get to additional shows of Joe Musgrove. I'll probably be around, if I can get to that field's 12%, actually, I'll be around the field. We'll see if I can make that happen.
Okay. What about those Rockies? Do you have any interest at all in playing the Rockies in this matchup?
No, Rockies on the road against right-handed pitching is typically a bad mix. So not really going there. If you wanted to take some hedge stacks against that DK ownership, you could, but it's not really a spot for me.
All right, Terry. Well, we've done a great job of keeping it quick. Now we can reward ourselves. We've got 7 minutes left to do the last two games. Doing great here. Boston Red Sox at the Seattle Mariners to start off. We got the Red Sox 4.3 run implied total. Mariners 4.2. Rich Hill on the mound for the Sox. Marco Gonzalez for the Mariners. Let's start with Rich Hill. How much interest, if any, do you have in Rich Hill against the Mariners today?
I had him in that mix. I mentioned him a few times during the show. I do think he's in that mix of like $7,000 pitchers who are just getting no ownership whatsoever on the DK slate. So it's not a premium option. He kind of mixes in with a lot of those guys that I discarded in being a kind of low strikeout pitcher, 18.3% strikeout rate. If I'm going there, it's just because I'm getting him at 0.5% ownership for a low price. And it's a guy that I have seen succeed over time. He's to put a narrative kind of bent on it, which I don't usually do. You are getting a capable veteran arm who knows how to pitch, and he is going up against a relatively young team. So he does have that unquantifiable upside. So again, it's a spot where I'm not saying Rich Hill's going to go out, have a good start, roster him. It is a spot where I'm saying if you're spreading around $7,200, $7,000 shares on DK, you should include him in that pool of options because he is in that pool of options.
Okay. And you mentioned those young Mariners. They've been playing fairly well, decent bat so far this year. As you mentioned, playing the veteran Rich Hill. Do you have any interest in the Mariners in this spot?
Yeah, particularly if I was putting some Rich Hill exposure into my lineups. They've been frisky against the left-handed pitching, creating runs 13% better than average. The power hasn't been great. 2.59% home run rate, ranks them 17th in baseball. 23.1% strikeout rate. Oh shit, that's Boston. I'm looking at the wrong numbers. My fault. Hold on one second. Let me pivot there. Seattle. There we go. 12% better than average, creating runs against lefties. A 2.99% home run rate. Most of what I said still holds up. Yep. They're about in the middle of the league against lefties across the board. So you can get there. I would get there more if I'm getting to an aggressive amount of Rich Hill, but I don't really recommend getting to an aggressive amount of Rich Hill. Just mix them in.
All right, perfect. Well, on the other side of the game, we've got Marco Gonzalez with a 13.7% strikeout rate so far this year. Are you going to cross him out, or you're playing any Marco Gonzalez?
I will have no shares of Marco Gonzalez. I wrote about the Red Sox as my featured stack today.
All right. So does that mean, are they your favorite stack of the day? How much Red Sox are you going to be playing? Are you going to be playing any one-offs, or are you just focusing on full stacks?
Toronto's probably still my favorite stack of the day in terms of just, pure upside and opportunity. I really like the spot for the Yanks, and the word Red Sox and favorite don't often collide in the same sentence in my vocabulary, sure. But I do very much like the spot here. That's why I wrote about them. I think the lineup plays very, very well. They're going up against a lefty who has a 13.7% strikeout rate this year and 18.5% last year, 5.16 xFIP last year, a 4.96% home run rate last year, 4.44% home run rate this year. There's just plenty of reason to target Marco Gonzalez in this spot. Roster Red Sox from Christian Arroyo through Rafael Devers, who is just average against lefties, but I don't really care because this isn't an average lefty. This is a well below average lefty. JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, Trevor Story, Alex Verdugo, Christian Vasquez, Bobby Dahlbeck. If it's Jackie Bradley in the 9 spot, maybe that's the hitter I would leave out, but even him against this lefty, I can take shares of. So yeah, give me some Red Sox here.
I know you love yourself some Bobby Dahlbeck. He's in the 8. We're projected to be in the 8 hole today at 3,000. Do you have a lot of interest there? Is he even in the 8?
Absolutely.
Even in the 8 hole? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll tell you, he's frequently hitting down there for 2,300 with his home run upside. I'll take shares any given day, and especially when he's under owned. He is very cheap. He's got a ton of power, and the home runs are coming. I'm not worried yet.
All right. Anything else that you want to say about this game before we close it out with Dodgers at Giants?
I might have undersold the opportunity for some Mariners bats. If you're looking there, it's Jesse Winker, Ty France, Julio Rodriguez, JP Crawford, Eugenio Suarez. I would probably cut it off there and maybe throw some Abraham Toro in. That's probably it.
All right. Right on. All right. Dodgers at Giants. The Dodgers have a 4.6 run implied total. Giants 3.9. Walker Buehler on the mound for the Dodgers. Jacob Junis for the Giants. How much interest do you have in Buehler here in San Francisco?
Yeah, I have interest in Buehler. I have not abandoned the ship on my guy here. He has been tinkering with his fastball. He's changed up his pitch mix. He's lowered the amount that he uses his four-seam fastball, increased the amount that he's throwing his cutter. But what he's really struggling with is the location on his fastball. He's increased the horizontal movement by an inch and change over what he's ever done in the past. It's a career high horizontal movement number for Buehler, and he's just not locating the fastball well enough. So he's giving up a massive expected slugging, massive slugging percentage on his four-seam fastball, which is historically one of his best pitches, and he locates it, on the edges of the strike zone to get called strikes when it's working. He's just been throwing it in the heart of the plate. If you look at this year's heat map versus any other season, every other year it's very pale with a couple key dots where he's just pinpoint, and this year it's just a big blob in the middle of the strike zone. So it's just been bad. He's been ineffective, but everything else is still there. So I do still believe in Buehler. I do believe he can get through this Giants lineup. It's not a great matchup. It's certainly not a standout spot, but I think the price is a little bit discounted for his struggles this year. He still projects out fine for me, and with less than 1% ownership on both sites, I will take an ace caliber pitcher any day of the week. I know some other guys at the site don't think that much of Walker Buehler. He, from 2018 through 2021, was 17th in baseball in strikeouts and strikeout percentage. He can pitch for me any day. He is an ace caliber pitcher. I will definitely be over the field on him here. Yeah,
that is some massively low ownership on Buehler. What about the other side of the game? You say you like Buehler, but he is tinkering. So maybe if he continues to tinker, the Giants can hit him around a little bit. Are you going to be playing any Giant stacks or one-offs?
Yeah, it makes some sense to grab some Giants edge stacks here. I wouldn't say anybody's making a mistake. They're very, very low owned. So you can go to shares of Luis Gonzalez, who I've talked about a lot, having a very nice season as a minor league signing. Mike Yastrzemski, Wilmer Flores, Jock Peterson, just destroying righties all season long. Brandon Crawford, even like Evan Longoria, Tommy La Stella down toward the bottom of the lineup. I can go 6-7 here. So 1 through 7, you can grab some shares. They're 0.5% owned across the board on both sites. So it's easy enough to do if you want him.
All right. Other side of this game, we've got Jacob Junis in a tough matchup with the Dodgers. Are you going to be playing any Junis here today?
Nah, I think I'll leave the Junis shares for other people. Doesn't look like anybody's taking me up on that. 8,500 on DK, 86 on FanDuel. Just going up against one of the best overall lineups in baseball. He's pitched decently well, 21% strikeout rate. There's nothing not to like about what he's done for them this season. I'm just not a full believer. I've seen enough of Jacob Junis over time to know that he's not quite as good as he's been this season. And I fear this Dodgers lineup. So if he gets me, it's another one. If he gets me tonight, he gets me. I don't expect it.
And it's a 15-game slate. Pretty unlikely you're going to need Jacob Junis.
Exactly.
What about the Dodgers, though, on the other side? If you, Jacob Junis has been pitching well, but the Dodgers, obviously a great lineup. You can be stacking the Dodgers, playing some one-offs. What's your plan?
Yeah, we'll see how it comes out. I'm always happy to get Dodgers full stacks when they come through. It looks like only Max Muncy on FanDuel, 14.6% ownership because he's come back to the lineup at just 2,900 for FanDuel reasons. Everybody else, single-digit ownership. So Mookie, Freddie, Trey Turner, Will Smith, Justin Turner, Cody Bellinger, Chris Taylor, Gavin Lux. This lineup plays 1 through 9 pretty much any night of the week. So set some of the low-owned guys with some of the high-owned guys, and you're off and running.
All right, Terry. Well, I think we are out of time now. So thanks for your great analysis as always.
Thank you,
guys. While you're heading out, please remember to give us a like and subscribe so you can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. Once you subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. We've got the NBA Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock coming up next, followed by another NBA Watch Along, NBA Finals Watch Along tonight with Lofty and Josh. So check that out later as well. Thanks for watching and good luck tonight.